It was raining. The wind moved through the trees like a whisper, soft but cold. The night was quiet in the small town, and most people were asleep, but Jack Carter was awake. He sat in his old wooden chair, holding a cup of hot coffee. The clock ticked. On the wall, slow and steady, Jack was a man in his late 40s. With tired eyes and a strong jaw. He had once been a soldier, but now he lived alone. No family, no friends, just peace and silence. He liked it that way, or at least, that's what he told himself. His house was at the edge of town, near the forest. Nobody came out this far, not even during the day. That's why the knock on the door at midnight felt like thunder. Jack froze. He put down his coffee slowly and stood up. Another knock came, soft but quick, like someone was scared. He reached for the small gun he kept in a drawer, just in case. Then he walked to the door and opened it. What he saw made his heart stop. There, lying on the ground, was a strange bundle. Wrapped in glowing silver cloth, it moved slightly, and then a soft cry came from it. It was a baby, but not a human one. Its skin was light blue, its eyes large and shiny. It was shaking, weak and hungry. Jack stepped back, unsure what to do. He looked around. The porch was empty, the rain falling harder now. Then he noticed something else. A trail of dark liquid, maybe blood, leading away from his steps and into the trees. He picked up the bundle carefully. The baby was light and warm, but its breathing was slow. "Where the hell did you come from?" Jack whispered, confused. Suddenly, he heard a rustle in the bushes. He turned fast, gun in hand, eyes sharp. From the darkness, a figure stepped forward. It was a woman, or something close. Her skin was the same pale blue, her face marked with soft lines that glowed faintly. She looked wounded, her side bleeding, her steps weak. She held one hand out, shaking. "Please," she said, her voice soft, broken. "Save her." Then she collapsed at his feet. Unconscious, Jack didn't move at first. This didn't feel real. He stared at the two, the baby in his arms, the woman on the ground. Was this a trick, a test, or a dream? But the cold wind reminded him it was real. The baby cried again, louder this time. Jack looked at the woman, then back at the child. Something in him, something deep, told him not to walk away. He carried them both inside, laid the woman on the couch and the baby on a towel near the fire. The house was warm, but not enough. He added more wood to the fire, watching the flames grow. Then he looked at the baby again. "What are you?" he said softly, not expecting an answer. The baby looked at him, eyes glowing slightly, and stopped crying. It blinked once, twice, as if it understood. Jack made a bottle, though he wasn't sure if the baby could drink it. To his surprise, it did, slowly, like it had never tasted anything so good. Then he cleaned the woman's wound and wrapped it with clean cloth. She was breathing, but barely. As Jack sat beside them, his mind raced. Who were they? Where did they come from? And why leave a baby on his porch? He looked out the window, eyes searching the forest. He had lived through war, seen strange things in secret missions. But this was different. This wasn't just a lost alien. This was someone running, hiding, desperate. And now they were his problem. He didn't know it yet. But the moment he opened that door, his life changed forever. Far in the sky, hidden in clouds, something watched. A ship, dark and silent, hovered over the earth. Its scanners were active, tracking energy from the baby's glowing cloth. Inside, a cold voice said, "We've found her." The hunt had begun, but Jack didn't know, not yet. He only knew that something bigger was coming, and he had just become part of it. Jack didn't sleep that night. How could he? He had a glowing alien baby sleeping in a towel basket, and a strange blue woman lying unconscious on his couch. Every few minutes, he checked on both, not sure if they would disappear like a dream. But they didn't. They were real, breathing, and helpless. At sunrise, the baby opened its eyes again. It didn't cry, it just stared at him, calm and curious. Jack made another bottle and fed it slowly. "You're too quiet for a baby." he whispered. That scares me more. A few hours later, the woman woke up. She gasped for air, sat up fast, and looked around, eyes wide with fear. Her breathing was heavy, her hands shaking. Jack stepped back, hands raised. Easy. Said, "You're safe here." She looked at the baby first, saw it was okay, then slowly met Jack's eyes. "You helped us," she said, her voice soft but unsure. "I found the kid first," Jack replied. "Then you fell on my porch." I had no choice," she said, looking away. "My name's Jack," he said. "Yours?" There was silence for a second. Then she said, "Rayla." She held the baby close, rocking it gently. "What are you running from?" Jack asked, Rayla's eyes filled with pain. "A war," she whispered. "One that started before your world even walked upright." That's when the light in Jack's house flickered. He paused, looking up. "Don't tell me you brought a power-cutting baby too," he muttered. Rayla stood up, weak but alert. "You need to hide us," she said quickly. "Underground, somewhere far from electronics." Jack frowned. "Why? They can track." "Her," she said, pointing at the baby. "If the beacon cloth is still active, they'll find us fast." Jack didn't ask questions this time. He moved quickly, leading them to the old basement under his house. He hadn't been down there in years, but it was quiet, cold, and safe. Dust hung in the air, and the only sound was the creaking steps beneath their feet. He laid down an old mattress and brought blankets, food, and a lantern. Rella nodded, thankful but still nervous. She whispered something in a strange language to the baby, who giggled. Softly, Jack sat on an old stool and stared at them. "You said they can track her," he said. "Who exactly are they?" Rayla closed her eyes for a second, gathering courage. "My people call them the Onyx Guard," she said. "They work for the Empire, a race of destroyers, hunters. They want my daughter because she is different." Jack tilted his head. "Different how?" Rilla looked at the baby, then said, "She is part of something old, a bloodline they fear." Jack wasn't sure if he believed everything yet, but something inside him, a soldier's instinct, told him Rilla was not lying. Just then, the baby's hands lit up faintly, small blue sparks dancing in the air. Jack stepped back slightly, eyes wide. Rilla didn't panic. She simply placed a hand on the baby's chest and whispered again. The light faded, and the baby giggled. "She doesn't know how to control it," Rayla said softly. "But it's growing." Jack sat back, rubbed his face with both hands, and let out a deep breath. "This is insane," he muttered. "I fix cars, I make coffee, I watch old war movies, and now I've got an alien baby Jedi in my basement." Rayla didn't understand the joke, but she smiled a little. Jack stood up again, thinking fast. "All right," he said. "You stay here, keep quiet, keep the lights off. I'll go out, get some baby supplies, canned food, and maybe some batteries. If anyone asks, I'm babysitting for a blue-skinned cousin from Mars." This time, Rayla laughed quietly for real. But as Jack opened the basement door to head out, he froze in the distance. Far beyond the trees, a black van stood still, no logo, no headlights, just parked and watching. He shut the door quickly, heart pounding. He walked back down the steps, face more serious than before. "They're here," he whispered. Rilla held her baby tighter, eyes full of fear. Jack looked at her, then at the baby, and then at the dusty ceiling above. "This isn't just about hiding anymore," he said. "If they want war, they picked the wrong house." The wind outside had changed. It was quiet, too quiet, like the trees were holding their breath. Jack stood at his window, the curtains barely open, watching the road. The black van was gone, but that didn't make him feel better. It made things worse. Vans don't disappear unless someone wants them to. Down in the basement, the baby was sleeping, and Rilla was resting too, but Jack couldn't relax. He was a man who had seen war, real war, and this, whatever it was, had that same smell. Not of blood, not of fire, but of something about to break. He walked back to his desk, opened an old drawer, and pulled out a dusty phone. It was a military satellite phone, disconnected from all networks, except one. He hadn't used it in years. He pressed the button, waited, then spoke. "This is Falcon 5 calling GhostNet. Urgent contact only." There was silence, then a static-filled voice replied. "Falcon 5, is that you?" "Yeah." Jack said. "I need intel. Eyes in my area." "What kind of eyes?" the voice asked. "Off the books, off-world," Jack said. The line went quiet again. Then the voice replied, serious this time. "Sending recon now. Stay offline." Jack turned off the phone and stared at the map on his wall. His small town was circled in red marker now. Next to it, he scribbled one word. Landed. Later that evening, Riley sat up, her eyes still tired but focused. "Your house is strange," she said. "So many small lights, soft noises," Jack smirked. "Yeah, it's not built for hiding aliens." Rayla held her baby close, who was now chewing on an old sock. "Tell me something," Jack said, pulling up a chair. "Why is she so special?" Rayla looked down, gently brushing the baby's tiny head. "She is not fully one of us," she said. "And not fully something else." "What do you mean?" Jack asked. "My people," Rayla said slowly, "were created long ago to serve. We were slaves to the Onyx Empire. Our DNA controlled, our minds limited. But some of us evolved, broke the limits. My child," she said, eyes shining, "is proof that freedom is possible." Jack leaned back, trying to take it all in. "So they want her to erase that proof?" "Yes," Rilla whispered. "And anyone who shelters her." Jack stood and walked to the window again. "Too late for that," he muttered. He grabbed a pen and wrote something on a notepad. Emergency route. Plan. C. That night, strange sounds echoed through the trees. Not animals, not wind, something mechanical, moving with rhythm. Jack stepped outside, just for a second, and saw a red flicker near the woods. Something was scanning. He went back inside and shut off every light in the basement. He set up an emergency curtain made from old blackout cloth. Then he handed Rila a small box. "If anything happens, press the red button," he said. "What does it do?" she asked. "It calls fire," Jack replied. Rella didn't ask more. But she held the box tightly, far above Earth, in orbit. A dark ship floated without sound. Inside, creatures stood around a glowing map. One of them, taller than the rest, with sharp silver armor and deep red eyes, spoke. The signal was active for 17 seconds. He said, "Long enough," another replied. "Mark the area." A projection of Earth appeared, and a red ring circled Jack's town. "Dispatch a scout," the leader said. "If the hybrid is there, eliminate all nearby species." "Yes, Commander," the soldier replied. Moments later, a black pod detached from the ship and fell toward the planet like a silent comet. Back on Earth, Jack woke up with a jolt. He hadn't meant to sleep, but the long day had caught up to him. He checked the basement. Rayla and the baby were still safe, but something felt wrong. He opened the front door slowly, gun in hand, on the porch. Something new waited. A small metal object, not human-made, was blinking. Jack crouched, picked it up, and felt the strange hum of alien tech. It clicked once, then projected. A flicker of light. A voice spoke in a cold, sharp tone. "Return the child," it said, "or Earth will burn." Jack crushed the device in his fist. He didn't say a word, but his eyes, tired and fierce, said everything. No one threatens. His house, not anymore. Jack hadn't been back to that place in 10 years. It was deep in the forest, hidden by trees that grew wild and thick. A single dirt path led to it. No signs, no lights, just silence. The old hunting cabin was built by his grandfather, and later used by Jack for things that were never written in official military records. Now, it was the only place he could think of. Not even the government knew it existed, at least not anymore. Rayla sat in the truck's back seat, holding the baby tight. The child was quiet, glowing slightly in her sleep. The world passed by in shadows as Jack drove fast and silent. We safe?" she asked finally. "No," Jack answered. "But we're safer than we were an hour ago." He glanced at the rearview mirror, half expecting a black van to appear from the dark. Nothing yet, but he had a feeling something was coming. Something worse. The cabin appeared suddenly, like it had grown from the woods itself, old wood, moss on the roof, and vines climbing the walls. But the door was still strong, and the underground bunker beneath it was untouched. Jack opened it with a hidden switch under a tree root. Inside was dust, silence, and memories. He led Rella and the baby down below, lighting old lanterns along the way. The underground room had metal walls, a backup generator, and crates full of supplies, canned food, water, medical kits, even a shortwave radio that still worked. "This is your new home," Jack said. "For now." Rella looked around amazed. "You were ready for something like this," she said. "I wasn't ready for this," Jack replied. "But I was ready for something." He didn't smile, not this time. That night, while Rella and the baby slept, Jack stood outside the cabin, staring at the stars. He remembered a night like this. Long ago, different forest, different sky, but the same quiet. He had been on a mission in a foreign land, searching for survivors. They found a child crying under rubble. His commander said to leave it. Jack refused. He carried that child 5 miles to safety. It cost him 3 friends and a bullet in his leg, but the child lived. He never forgot that. He wouldn't forget this either. Suddenly, a click. Jack turned fast. Gun raised, but it was Rella holding the baby. "I didn't mean to scare you," she said. "You shouldn't be out here," Jack replied. "It's not safe. It's never safe," she whispered. "Not for us." They stood together in the cold, 2 very different people, but both carrying the same weight. "I never asked," Jack said. "What's her name?" Rella looked down at the baby and smiled softly. "Sorry," she said. "It means hope in my language." Jack nodded slowly. "Hope's a good name." Later, deep underground, Rella woke up suddenly. Her heart was racing. Something in her bones told her something was near. She picked up Sari, wrapped her in a blanket, and listened. A faint humming sound far away, like machines breathing. She ran upstairs and found Jack already awake. Holding binoculars from the rooftop, a strange light was glowing in the distance. Not fire, not headlights, something colder. "They're scanning," Jack said. "Low orbit." Rella looked up through the trees, her eyes glowing faintly. "They've sent a beacon drone," she said. "It tastes air, finds energy, reads DNA from miles away." Jack didn't blink. "Then it'll find us, unless..." Rella paused. "We mask Sari's energy." Jack raised an eyebrow. "How?" "I need something alive," she said. "Something with warm blood." Jack didn't ask why. He grabbed his old crossbow and disappeared into the woods. An hour later, he returned with a rabbit, still breathing but calm. Rella placed her hand over the creature's heart, whispered something, and then touched Sari's chest. A soft blue light passed between them. Sari's glow vanished, and the rabbit began to faintly shimmer. "It'll confuse the drone," she said. "For now." Jack looked at her, wondering how much she still wasn't telling him. But before he could speak, the shortwave radio in the bunker crackled. It hadn't made a sound in years. Now, a voice whispered through static. "We know," it said. "You are not alone." Jack stared at the radio, then at Rella. "Safe house." "Or trap," he muttered. Outside, the wind had stopped, and the forest held its breath once more. The radio stayed silent after that one message. "We know you are not alone." It felt like a whisper from something watching just beyond the trees. Jack stared at the old machine, heart pounding slow and heavy. He reached for the power cord and yanked it out. Dust rose into the air, but the fear remained. Inside the bunker, Sari had stopped glowing for now. The energy masking trick worked, but for how long? No one knew. Ray Lee watched her child sleep and whispered strange words, prayers maybe. From a world Jack couldn't imagine. Jack stood by the basement door, listening for anything. The wind, the trees, a footstep, a breath, anything. But the world above was still too still, that morning. Jack took his old motorcycle and rode into town, not through the main roads, but through forgotten paths only hunters used. He wore a hoodie and sunglasses blending in. He needed to know what people were saying, if anyone else had seen anything. Strange, he stopped by a small gas station, bought a few things, and listened, at the counter. The clerk was speaking to a man in a uniform. Lights in the sky, the clerk said. Real bright. Like searchlights. Jack leaned closer. The officer nodded. Military says it was a satellite glitch. Jack frowned. A glitch that scans forests and leaves no trace, he thought. He left town quickly and headed to an old friend, Mike, a retired comm specialist who owed Jack more than one favor. Mike lived off-grid, surrounded by antennas and paranoia. Jack knocked twice, paused, then knocked once, their old signal. Mike opened the door with a shotgun in hand. Jack Carter, he said. Still breathing, huh? I need eyes in the sky, Jack said, serious. The kind satellites don't admit exist. Mike blinked, then stepped aside. You've got 5 minutes. Back at the cabin. Rayla heard something strange, a hum, low and sharp, like metal teeth grinding. She ran outside, baby in her arms, and looked up. Something was floating above the treetops, small, black, with 3 blinking red lights. A drone, not human-made. It hovered for a second, then began to drop fast, like a hawk locking onto prey. Before it could land, a loud bang echoed through the forest. The drone burst into sparks. Rella turned, surprised. Jack stood behind her, shotgun still smoking. Good news, he said. I made contact. Rella looked confused. Jack pointed to the sky. They made contact too. That night, the forest was alive with strange movement. Metallic shadows shifted between trees, almost invisible. But Jack had set traps, old-school ones from a forgotten war. One of them snapped hard, and a mechanical scream followed. He and Rella ran to the spot and found a half-destroyed alien. Scout, legs twitching, red eyes blinking, before it died. It looked right at Sari and said in a broken, static-filled voice, "The Empire remembers." Then it went still. Jack stepped back, stunned. "They can speak English," he whispered. "No," Rella said. "They can steal it." That night, the baby did something she had never done before. She stood up, not crawled, not stumbled. Stood up on her own. She looked at Jack, eyes glowing faint blue, and said a word no one expected. "Dad." Jack froze. Raylea's eyes widened, filled with something between fear and wonder. "She's learning fast," Rayla whispered. Jack knelt beside the child, unsure what to say. "You don't have to call me that," he said quietly. But the baby smiled, and for the first time in a long time, something in Jack's chest cracked open. Not pain, hope, in the sky above them, hidden in the clouds. A much larger ship began to descend, not to scan, not to watch, but to land. The time for hiding was almost over. The real war was about to begin, and Jack Carter, a man who thought his battles were behind him, was now the first human to make contact, not just with aliens, but with destiny itself. The sky was no longer empty. Above the clouds, hidden behind a veil of light, a ship hovered, massive, silent, deadly. The Empire had arrived. Not to warn, not to talk, but to take. Jack Carter woke with a sharp breath. He had dreamed of fire, of war, of a girl calling him Dad. When he opened his eyes, he saw the real thing, Rella standing over him. Baby Sari in her arms, eyes wide with fear. "They're here," she said. "I can feel them." Jack got up, grabbed his gear, and opened the hatch to the bunker. The wind outside was cold, but not natural. It carried something different now. Pressure, like a storm building in the bones, far in the distance. Clouds swirled unnaturally over the hills. "They'll come from the west," Jack said. "Too much cover from the woods." Riley looked at him, serious. "You've done enough. she said. You don't have to die for us. Jack didn't answer. He just walked to a hidden cabinet in the cabin wall, punched in a code, and pulled out a metal case. Inside, his old weapons, dusty, scratched, and deadly. You don't get it, Jack said. Loading shells into a shotgun. This isn't about saving an alien baby. He looked at Sari, who blinked softly and smiled. This is about making sure the bad guys lose. 2 hours later, the cabin looked different. Traps had been set. Lines drawn in the dirt. Jack's old war buddies had arrived, 4 men, all scarred, quiet, and dangerous. They didn't ask questions when Jack called. They just showed up. One of them, Miller, looked at Sari and said, "That's one weird baby." Jack just said, "She's the future." And that was enough. From the forest, movement began. Not footsteps, not running, but shifting, like metal crawling through leaves. One of the men, Brenner, spotted a shimmer. Visual on 3. He said, "Maybe more." The air rippled, and suddenly they appeared, tall figures in black armor, faces covered in glass masks. Each one held a weapon that didn't look like anything from Earth. But Jack wasn't afraid. He had seen monsters before. Now he hunted them. The fight exploded fast. Traps went off. Flashes of light and fire filled the air. Miller tossed a smoke bomb. Brenner opened fire from the trees. Jack moved like a ghost, targeting the scouts from behind cover. But these soldiers weren't like the drone before. They adapted. One of them shifted its armor, absorbing bullets like water. Another one leapt 30 feet in the air, landing near the cabin door. Rayla stood inside, holding Sari behind her, eyes glowing bright. "Not this time," she whispered. She raised her hand, and the ground cracked beneath the soldier. A pulse of energy knocked it backwards, slamming it into a tree. Rayla's strength was fading, but her will was stronger than ever. Jack saw it all from a distance. He shouted, "Into the cum! Fall back to the cabin!" The others ran, dodging beams of red light. One man got hit. A clean shot through the chest. He dropped without a sound. Jack clenched his teeth, but didn't stop. There was no time for pain now, only purpose inside the cabin. Rayla sat down slowly, coughing blood. Sari reached for her, confused and scared. "Stay brave." Rayla whispered, "You're more than both of us." Jack rushed in, eyes scanning. He saw the blood and dropped to his knees. No, you're not done," he said, voice shaking. Rayla placed her hand on his and smiled weakly. "She belongs to you now." Jack didn't want this, but he nodded, because she needed him to. Rayla closed her eyes, and the light in her body dimmed. She was gone. Outside, the final scout stood alone, aiming at the cabin before it could fire. A small figure stepped into the doorway. It was Sari. She looked up, hands glowing blue. The scout paused, as if unsure what it was seeing. Then the light from Sari's hands exploded. Not in fire, but in memory. The scout's body locked up, freezing, images flashing in its helmet, of stars, of freedom, of faces long erased by war. The scout dropped its weapon, turned, and ran into the woods. Silence returned. The cabin stood, damaged but standing inside. Jack sat on the floor, holding the child in his arms. The war wasn't over, not even close, but a message had been sent. Earth will fight back. And Jack Carter, once just a lonely man in the woods, was now something more. A soldier, a father, and the beginning of a new legend. The fire was burning low, outside. The wind had gone quiet again. No more scouts, no more lasers, no more screaming sky, but the cabin smelled like smoke and metal. Inside, Jack sat still, holding Sari in his arms. Rayla's body was wrapped in a cloth beside them. Peaceful now, the sun had started to rise, cutting soft light across the wooden floor. Sari looked up at Jack, her blue eyes blinking slowly. "Gone," she said, the words soft and broken. Jack nodded. "Yeah, kid," he whispered. "She's gone." An hour later, Jack stood over a small grave just beyond the cabin. He had dug it by hand, surrounded by trees. The forest watched silently, leaves swaying gently as if saying goodbye. He placed a stone above. The earth, carved with just one word. Rayole, no last name, no dates. She wasn't from here. But she had died protecting someone she loved. That was enough. Later that day, a black helicopter landed near the edge of the woods. It wasn't military. Not exactly. It was quiet, smooth. Built with tech not many humans had seen. 3 people stepped out, men in suits. Faces unreadable. Jack stood on the porch, holding Sari in one arm and a shotgun in the other. They raised their hands, showing they were unarmed. "We're not here to take her," one of them said. Jack didn't lower the gun. "We intercepted the Empire's signal," another added. "We know Earth was targeted." Jack narrowed his eyes. "You're late," he said. The third man, older, stepped forward. "We want to protect her," he said. "We want to protect you, Jack." "Not interested," Jack replied. The man looked at Sari, who hid her face in Jack's jacket. "She's not safe here," he said. "Others will come." Jack finally spoke, slowly and clearly, then let them. The men left after handing him a small card, blank, except for a number. "If you ever change your mind," the older man said. Jack didn't reply. He watched the helicopter rise and vanish behind the clouds. Then he turned and walked back inside. Days passed. The cabin became quieter, almost peaceful. Jack taught Sari how to make fire using sticks, how to listen to wind, how to read the sky. She grew fast, not just physically, but mentally. She was curious, thoughtful, and strong. One evening, she sat beside Jack, looking at the stars. "Will they come back?" she asked. Jack didn't lie. "Maybe," he said. She held his hand. "Then we'll be ready," she said. Jack looked at her, not as an alien, not as a weapon, but as family, and he smiled. "Yeah," he said, "we will. Somewhere far away, deep in space." The Empire ship burned. The surviving scout had returned. But it had changed. It no longer followed orders. It only spoke one sentence now. "The humans remember." And the Empire began to fear something they hadn't feared in centuries. A species with no empire, no fleet, no crown, only heart. Back on Earth, Jack stood beside Sari in the woods. She raised her hands and gently made the leaves glow, not with violence, but with warmth, life, hope. Jack watched in silence, the wind brushing through his hair. He remembered a time when he thought life was over. Now he had a reason to fight again. Not for orders, not for medals, but for her. The child that didn't belong to his world, but had become its future. Jack picked her up and whispered, "You're not just alien. You're not just powerful. You're mine." Sari smiled, glowing softly in the light of dusk. And the forest, once a place of hiding, became their home. Not a battlefield, not a trap, but the place where something new had begun. The stars watched from above, silent, endless. And somewhere in the distance, beyond what humans could see, a message traveled through space, a warning and a promise. Humanity is not alone, and it never will be again.